And I,
First of all, I want to thank you sincerely for doing this for me. It's greatly appreciated.
my pleasure.
I, I look up to you, and I always have really admired your attitude toward music. The whole inspiration for this is definitely you, because what I learned from, when I was growing up, um, reading a lot of interviews, which I read a lot of yours before there was internet and stuff, um, is that there's really uh, obviously a thought process behind the whole thing, And I figured that if I approached it with the same attitude of people that I admired, then I would be able to excel. And there's, lessons that you can do without even having a guitar, for example. I just wanted to ask you about your process, the creative process really, behind you approaching music, there's like a beginning, middle, and an end. It's everything in my opinion. And so, like, I saw one of your videos, for example. You were talking about meditation, right?
Mhm.
And you approach it a lot with having a particular focus in mind.
I
Um,
did.
now, where did that come from? Like your inspiration for that?
Well, the word meditation can have a lot of baggage to it, because to understand what it is and how we how we approach it, there's various ways of looking at it. One way, there's kind of two types of meditation that I personally uh, kind of look at. One of them is like a doing meditation. It's when you're doing something, and as you're doing it, you're focused. There's no um, obstacles, mental obstacles in the way. It's a reflection of your ability to focus on something and find the momentum in the creative process. And most people know what this is, but most people do it. At in some capacity in their life. Everybody is creative.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. That's absolutely a fact. We can block our creativity. We can squash it. We can deny it, but we can't not have it, because we're creative beings. Now, the thing that we're going to be most successful at, and when I use the word successful, I'm referring to not necessarily worldly success, but the feeling of satisfaction. That's real success. The feeling of satisfaction in creative endeavors. That's an experiential thing. Um, and the only time you can ever know something is when you actually experience it. So when we're focused on something that feels very natural and organic to us, a creative thing, and this is different for everybody, uh, sort of. For me, it's music. For some reason, music was always the thing in my life that grabbed my attention and grabbed my focus.
Yeah.
For some people, it's cooking, it's writing, it's art, it's an idea for a business, it's a vocation in life. It might be something as simple like bricklaying or making simple things. Service providers, everybody has something that while they're doing it, they're actually their ability to focus is fine tuned because there's a deep interest in it.
Right.
You understand? There's like a connection. They see it. It's like my wife when she cooks. She has this intuitive cooking ability. She tastes things with her mind before putting them in her mouth. I can't do that. I mean, I to a degree, but if I'm cooking, you don't want to eat what I put together, It's not natural to me, but there's certain things that are, and music was always natural. So my ability to retain a focus on it was pretty strong. So that's sort of a form of meditation. It's in the doing.
And and the zone or what?
Yeah, it's when you're in the zone, and you can see it like elite athletes when they're just in the zone, or when you're watching a performer and they're just captivating you. You're completely captivated by them because they're in the zone. And if they're in the zone, that meditative doing zone, you're going to be drawn in if it's something that resonates with you because they're connected. They're connected to their joy, and sometimes people enter this meditative doing frame of mind. They're forced into it because their life can depend on it. Extreme sports, for instance, these people that risk their lives jumping from building to building or climbing mountains or whatever it is, riding a motorcycle over these death-defying sports that when you watch these people, there's nothing on their mind except exactly what they're doing. There's no room. There's no space. If they lose that focus, it could be their life.
Right.
So they thrive on this because in that state of meditative doing, there's a relief from the mind because there's no ability. The mind can't be moving around thinking about the past, thinking about fearing the future, or any of these things. You have to be present. You just have to be because your life can depend on it. And I think this is why some people force themselves into this state. But, they don't force themselves. They find themselves doing things that demand their full attention. So the more you engage in your in the thing that is most interesting to you creatively, the deeper you can go into it, and the more you can your creativity finds innovation, because this is the only space you'll ever find uniqueness, your unique creativity, uh, um, because you're connected to the creative impulse of the universe, because you're allowing and you're doing, and it's a very powerful creative state. So that's one kind of meditation. It's like an outward. Now, conversely,
You mind if I
yes, yeah,
I'm sorry.
sure.
How do you get yourself in that state? Obviously, like when you're playing, you're like totally in the zone, like every time. Do you practice any type of, root or ritual?
Well, yeah, I'm not in the zone all the time. You know what I mean? My mind, uh,
You're playing,
when I'm
thinking
when
about what
I'm doing. Sorry.
I said playing guitar and then thinking about what you're gonna have for dinner.
Well, that used to happen. And it's still thoughts can come up,
Yeah.
but your focus will forgive those thoughts. So, for instance, it's not uncommon for a musician or in a situation or somebody that has to perform something to be on a stage or in a situation where they're performing and not be there in their head. They're somehow in the future.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that, the future could be 5 seconds away. They can be worried about what happens if this part comes up and I screw it up. Or what about, well, these people aren't really digging me. Or all these thoughts that intrude on your focus. So uh, masters pay no attention to these thoughts. There's no space in them for these thoughts. And you do this when you're engaged in something that's exciting to you. So, your question was, how do you get into this state? Well, it can happen very organically for anybody that finds an intense interest in something. And your interest is generated by your enthusiasm for a good idea. The good idea comes from your creative well. I'll just call that the universe in you, and it wants to come through you because it's natural for you. So there's not a lot of work needed. It's not that you just end up becoming almost myopic about something. And you could verify this in your own life with those experiences where you may find yourself doing something and all of a sudden you get like what seems like a download for a creative idea. And if whatever you do, you're a writer or whatever, this happens. You know this, and it's accompanied with an aha moment and feeling of enthusiasm for the project. These are your natural, organic, creative impulses, and they don't have fear in them, and they don't have uh, fear of not fitting in or failure. There's no complaining in them. It's a joyful ride as you're doing it. So that's one way to get into that zone, to focus deeply on things that you love. Now, you love doing. So another way that can be helpful is first you have to recognize the obstacles to the zone. And the obstacles to the zone and the zone is actually your natural state. That's when you're in the zone, you're in your natural state of being, your creative bliss, so to speak. So it's important to recognize the obstacles, and the obstacles are only ever the little voice in your head that's telling you anything. I know this sounds esoteric, but it's true. Your creative impulses do not arise as conceptualized thoughts. They arise in you as inspired ideas, inspiration that then turns into inspired thought, and action comes instantly out of that. That's what, like when you're improvising.
Right.
When you see somebody improvising and they're just completely connected, like Alan Holdsworth or something, you're just watching and you go, how is that possible? It's because he's completely connected with, without the obstacles. So in order to sharpen this skill within you, you have to recognize the obstacles. So the next time you're out there playing, or you sit down to, if the guitar or music is your bliss, see if you can recognize the little voice in the head and what it's saying to you. That's the obstacles. Okay, so that's why it's considered a meditative state. That's why I consider it a meditative state when you're doing and you're in the zone. So recognizing the obstacles is the beginning of dissolving them. Because if you don't recognize them, they take a hold of you and you don't even know it. It's a form of unconsciousness. You're unconscious over the fact that you're not present. You're just someplace else. So you have to recognize that.
You study psychology or anything to have that with this?
Well, anything that I speak is basically a recognition of things that I've read. I've done a lot of reading on spirituality. It's been a study, and the study of spirituality is the study of the self. So when you start turning the microscope from the outside world to the inside, you start to recognize things, and that's all I'm ever talking about.
Mastering yourself, right? I think that's
Mastering your focus, taking control, and empowering yourself with your ability to focus. That's your only power, but it's everything.
I know that definitely inspired me. I would. So I started reading a lot of stuff about Buddhism and like all these different philosophies on spirituality, and and that was influence that I got from reading a lot of your interviews. And one of my favorites is from Guitar World. I think it's Guitar World or Guitar Magazine. It was like that. Then you do this 10-hour workout thing, I think, and it was to know your heart, you have to know yourself. To know yourself, you have to be yourself, and to be yourself, you have to let yourself. You have to literally use that like for since I read it, and I wrote it on an index card. I wrote all these, things down on an index card, and um, it stayed with me all these years, Then I still,
Nice.
I still think about it, and
You know what it mean. You know what it means, right?
yeah, you have it's to meditate on it, right? Like I had to meditate on it to really understand fully what each word means, to really absorb every single word, and to really understand what each word is saying. You have to really know what the word means. I went back as far as going on the dictionary and looking up the simplest words just to really get the full understanding of each word. And that's a lot to do with.
Well, I can unpack it a bit if you like.
Absolutely. I'd love for you to elaborate on that. Do you
Yeah.
remember that? Do you remember that? Not at all?
I don't remember saying it, but it sounds like something I would say.
It's so amazing. Like I said, before internet, all I had is Guitar Magazine, Guitar World.
Yeah.
I take all these interviews from you, especially because you always had something very inspirational to say, something profound.
Well, first we have to understand what it means to be yourself. Okay. Everybody they have like a egoic surface personality that's conditioned and is based on all the things that they've been taught through life, and all the things that you encounter in your family, in your culture, your religion, your politics, the newspapers, when you go to school. These create conditioned beliefs in us, and we believe that we need to be a certain way. We believe that we should eat certain things. We're told that our thought patterns are completely conditioned, and then as a result of that, we create a surface personality. We create an identity for ourselves in our own head, and that identity is based on how we see ourselves through our events in the past. So this identity that we create for ourselves is a lie. It's fabrication. It's a series of illusory beliefs that we were told about ourselves. So this creates what I'll call the egoic personality. And the egoic personality is never itself. It's never your true, free self. In reality, your authentic personality in the world is the best part of you. It's the happiest part of you. It's the part of you that feels completely comfortable in your skin. Your authentic freedom that does things because you feel they're good, and you don't do things and there's no that don't feel right to you. So your authentic personality is in a state of a state of grace, in a sense. It's when you're at your very best. This is when you're in your zone, when you're in your creative flow. Things are just moving and working. Challenges come, and you have access to wisdom. Your authentic personality has perfect access to wisdom, and it's able to see a situation and navigate it beautifully. Okay? Your authentic personality does not blame others. It doesn't judge anything. It accepts the other's freedom of being themselves. Okay, so imagine, and you can imagine this because you've experienced it. Those periods in your life or in your thoughts where you just feel really good in your skin. You like yourself. You like the things you like without making excuses. You don't criticize others for the things they like. You will just allow. It's fine. Their politics, their music they like, their religion is fine. Your authentic personality doesn't fight these things. It doesn't fight anything. It only heals. When you're engaged in your real self, everything you do is inspired. It's inspirited. It cannot hurt anybody or yourself. So there's a big difference between your joyful, authentic personality and your egoic personality that's different with every person you meet, that's in a state of resistance, that is fearing something in the future, that has to criticize and judge and blame. That's a miserable way to live, and most people live that way, with only little brief moments of experiencing their authentic self. So, as per what I had mentioned in that interview, you have to first understand your your true self. Not true self. Your true self has nothing to do with any kind of an identity. you know, I'll just say you have to understand your authentic, happy self. This self likes itself. You understand? Like you're comfortable in your skin. You like you. You're happy with you. Okay, this is natural. Everything else is a state of being in dysfunction. Anything you do through the egoic personality creates some kind of dysfunction for you and others. Anything you do in your state of your natural, organic, or personality is only helpful, exciting, interesting for yourself and others. So when you embrace your authentic personality, there's a lot to like there. Okay, so what was the first part of what I said? So
No,
I just wanted to establish what your authentic personality is. Does it make sense?
that's yeah. I definitely can relate to that through something else. I think that you mentioned in one of your interviews about um, when you identify who you are, you're like, who am I? And then you try to label yourself, and then that's not really who you are.
Exactly. If you're labeling yourself, you're explaining an identity that you created. You can't label yourself. Who you are is unlabelable.
Like, how do you um, get to that level?
You have to see the obstacles to it because it's already there. You can't escape. You can't escape it. It's at the core of your nature, your true self. You understand? How do you get to it? You don't get to it. It's already there. You have to recognize it because we forget. And the only way to recognize that you're already doing great, you're already protected, you're already safe and secure. In order to get to that, you have to see the obstacles to the understanding of what that means. And the obstacles are always conditioned beliefs that you were taught through the years. So you have to be vigilant with the kinds of thoughts you're thinking. You have to examine them and say, okay, wait a minute. Is that really true? You know? And virtually every time, no, it's not true. I mean, in the bigger picture of things, it's kind of hard to talk about. So what I'll say is it's already there. You just have to recognize the obstacles. It's an inside job. The obstacles are not in the outside world. The obstacles are the way you're choosing to think, the thoughts that you're choosing. And this is the only thing that's within your power ever, is the ability to put your focus, to change your focus, your ability to choose the kinds of thoughts that you want to think. That's the only power you have in reality, because any action you take comes from the thoughts you're thinking. So, uh, recognizing the obstacles is the beginning of the waking up out of the dream of thinking. That's what basically enlightenment is. You're waking up out of the dream of thinking thoughts in your head that are full of shit. You know what I'm saying?
And then,
And this then segues into the other form of meditation that I haven't brushed on, which is it's not the doing, it's the returning, and that's an inside job, and that's when we start talking about more traditional type of sitting and meditating and stilling the mind, and when you do that, you then can recognize the obstacles. You won't miss them. Because when you try to remain thoughtless and present, there's a momentum of thoughts that come in that seem uncontrollable, and the work is to just recognize that you're allowing these thoughts. When you don't recognize that it's your choice, then the thoughts think you. You become a robot to conditioned thoughts. And this is very prevalent. You can see it in the world. But I wanted to just get back to the quote that I made and sort of connect the dots. So can you read me that quote again?
to know your heart, you have to know yourself. To know yourself, you have to be yourself. And to be yourself, you have to like yourself.
Yeah. So what was the first one?
Know your heart, you have to know yourself.
Yeah. So right there, to know your heart, meaning to know the best of you, to know your authentic personality. That's your heart. You have to be. Was that the next one? You have to be yourself.
Right. And then
So yeah, you have to be yourself. So what that means is you have to uh, uh, express your authentic, joyful personality through you without any excuses. Do you know what I mean? Without, well, I might hurt somebody's feelings, because then you're placating somebody else's insecurities and victim mentality.
right.
And this does them no good, really. We believe that we have to make laws that protect people's sensitive, identities, when in reality, you're doing them terrible harm by doing that, and yourself. So to be yourself, to like yourself, you have to like that part of you that likes the things you like with no excuses, doesn't want to engage in the things you don't want. And I mean, it's like everybody has a different perspective of their world. Everybody lives a unique reality. And the reality that each person lives is based on the way they see the world, right? That's just stupid, simple stuff. The way you see the world is based on the conditioned thoughts and belief systems that you've acquired and solidified. You see the world through those. And those are built by your life experience. Nobody can think the same thoughts as you in that sense. Nobody can have the same life experience because everybody creates their own reality based on the conditioned thoughts that they've inherited.
I agree.
And in order to be yourself, you have to recognize that the identity you created for yourself as a victim is a lie. It's just a lie. It's actually illusory thoughts that you believe that just are not true in reality. But here's the kicker. If they're true to you, they're your reality. Whatever thoughts you believe become your reality. That's the kicker. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do you like your reality? Do you like the life you're living? Do you like the person you are? Because the person you are is reflected in the life you're living. So if the answer to that is Yeah, I really like what I do. I love the people I hang with. I love the the this about it. I like these kinds of clothes. I like when I'm doing this. I like this kind of sex, whatever it is, with no excuses, you know. And you'd be surprised that when a person is exposed to this kind of freedom within themselves, they don't do stupid shit. There's no need, because the only time people do outrageous, outlandish things is when there's a conflict in them. And the conflict is always caused by their authentic personality being smothered by their conditioned beliefs. It's like if somebody told you red, you're not supposed to like that. You like the color red? Hey, we have one. We have somebody, you know, that this the guy likes red. I think we're going to have to do something about this. You can't like red. That's what's happening, though, you know? And as a result, you're like, yeah, but I like red. Is there something wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me because they are telling me I shouldn't like red. Do you see that it's a form of insanity?
I agree. I totally agree.
Okay, so recognizing that it's insane to not be yourself. It actually is. That's what insanity is, not being your true, authentic self. Recognizing that is part of the process of dissolving it. But you have to recognize that you're in fear, and then you have to realize that in reality, fear is an illusion. It doesn't actually exist. You can't show me fear. You can't. It's impossible. I'm looking into the world. I don't see fear. You can see people acting in fear. You can see people doing outlandish things based on the amount of fear they have, but it doesn't really exist in reality. Do you understand? It's not out. It's not there. It's here. Fear is only ever here. It's human. It's human made, and it's an illusion. And when you recognize that, and it starts to dissolve, you start to feel true peace. You feel comfortable in your skin. When you start feeling comfortable in your skin, you like yourself. When you like yourself, you're of service to others in powerful ways. Otherwise, you create dysfunction. You know, there's such a momentum when you start when you embark on a path, when you embark on a directive that, okay, I want peace. What I want above all else is a calm mind and a peaceful heart. That's what I want, and that's what I want above all else. And you make that an authentic. You align with that. It's very. You'd be surprised. People don't do this. People align with, I'm going to be very successful. I see myself as an entrepreneur. I see myself as a rock star, and I'm good. You know what I mean? They believe that that kind of success brings peace. Yeah, it's an illusion. So when you really decide within yourself, so you ask me, how do you get there? You have to come into alignment with yourself as that being what you actually want above all else is a peaceful heart, you know, a peaceful heart, a happy life. You know, you have to decide that's what I want, and you don't have to do anything else after that. It happens automatically. Your decision is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's just that people don't know how they're deciding.
Obviously, there's something more to you than just, you know, you are. There's something behind it, you know, and that's the way that you approach it. And that's why I'm glad you decided to do this, because that's what I'm really want to tackle.
I think my playing style emerged from me allowing my authentic personality to express itself on the guitar. You know, and not all the time. I started the best time to find your authentic creative self in what you do, and we'll say in my case, being a musician. Sometimes it requires total innocence. So I started to recognize my style, my quirky style, when I was young, very young, and I started playing. I had all these my guitar heroes. I was Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Brian May, and I'd listen to what they play, and boy, oh boy, I loved it so much. And Al Di Meola and Mountain Poles, just there was something I just loved about the guitar. But I was very innocent. I wasn't telling myself, you're going to be a big rock star. You better be able to play like these guys, because they've already proven that this is the way you do it. I instinctually felt at every turn, uh, that's really cool what they're doing. Let me try to do it. But I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play like that live. You know what I mean? That's not me. I just knew. And it wasn't anything egotistical about it, or like, I need to be me for the future to be famous and all this. There was none of that. There was just a very simple, innocent desire to find something quirky and interesting that pushed my button. It's that simple. And that was whenever I discover it, whether it was a riff or a chord that just resonated really deeply with me, or chord changes or particular melodies, the recognition in me that was right for me was me allowing my authentic personality to play the guitar. Now this has a tendency in many people, including myself, to become compromised.
Yeah.
Once you start showing your face in the world, and there's a an agenda in it, meaning, well, now I'm competing with these players. Now this is my career now, so I have to be great. Why can't I sell as many records as this person? Well, what am I, this kind of egoic thing that pollutes, it obstructs your authentic personality from coming out, because you change it. You change what you're doing based on the belief that you should be doing something different than what feels good to you. It's very stupid simple, but we don't see that we're doing it because there's too much fear in being ourselves. One of our greatest fears is being ourselves. Isn't that funny? Because we believe that if we appreciated others and we showed appreciation, we would be losing some. We'd have to sacrifice something. We'd lose something. We'd make ourselves vulnerable. We wouldn't be in control. Well, the wheels would fall off. We'll be taken advantage of. We have to sacrifice. This is the biggest fear we face. Isn't that interesting? That the biggest fear we face is being free and being our authentic selves. So anyway, so for me, there was enough awareness in me because of my innocence when I was young to find a liking in the odd kind of things that I would do, because it was very obvious to me I wasn't a very good, authentic blues player, jazz player, fusion player, or even rock player, because I'd always think, I'm not going to do what all these other guys are doing. A, because I can't. B, I'm not. Why? Why? It's not really me. So this was very innocent, though.
It's really hard.
See, it has to come about as just a simple recognition.
It's really hard to categorize your style. Try to categorize your style. I really can't. It's so, like, to me, it's so off the wall.
Keep in mind that when I was 12, I was taking lessons from Satriani for like 5 years. So he was mentoring me. I learned everything about the guitar through him. So there's a big influence there in a sense. And then I discovered, all those great rock guitarists of the 70s. They were my food, But first and foremost, I wanted to be a composer. Music comes very natural to me. I mean, creative musical ideas come natural to me, but playing the instrument is hard. I had to work really hard. For a lot of guitar players I know and that I've taught, they have a natural, it's natural for them. But I think that the fact that it came hard for me was part of what helped my style grow also. But it's an inside job. You have to, and it's a meditation in a sense. It's a doing meditation, even if you're not doing something. You're doing something with your mind. Like, for instance, this is an incredible training exercise. When you can do this when you go to sleep at night. You lay there and you visualize the guitar in your hands. You know what it looks like, and you play through a song that you know, but you don't miss a beat. You keep your attention. You see it, you hear it, and this is like a meditation. But it's a meditation that you're doing something. You're creating. You're visualizing, and this. Your most powerful manifestational tool is your ability to visualize. So this is a practice because you'll notice that you might get a few bars into it psychologically, mentally, visually, and then your mind is off someplace. So if it's happening when you're laying in bed at night, it's happening when you're playing. You see? So you don't need a guitar to train your mind to play the guitar. Of course, you got to at some point get your fingers on it and start working them out and getting them, where they need to go. But that's just one technique. If you can lay there or sit there and visualize yourself playing a song from beginning to end perfectly, you are a master of mind control. That's a big boy game, beginning to end.
Creative visualization.
Yeah, and sticking with it and being it, actually being it as if it's actually happening.
You could probably do like a whole segment on this for like 6 months.
Here's the thing, John. Whenever we see something that inspires us, it changes our thought patterns and our behavior. And you don't even have to know that it came from somebody. Like, you don't have to know it came from Steve Vai. It's not, Steve Vai isn't the important element here. It's how the message affects you and transforms you, because that in turn transforms everything you do and everybody you meet, even in such subtle ways you can't detect, but it does. You'll never escape that. This is why it's so important to be your authentic self, because that's how you really inspire people, through example.
Slowly, I've wanted to do this for a good 20 years, and again, you've been like the center of this, so thank you, Steve. Sincerely appreciate, your time, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you again sometime in the future.
Well, you're just as important in this formula as I am. You know that, right?
Well,
because anything I say is useless unless it touches somebody.
thank you. Thank you for the inspiration. Sincerely.
And then you'll be playing again before you know it.
I pray that I will. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless you. Cheers.